Welcome back, everyone, to Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. Whew, it has been a day, ladies and gents. This is it's Father's Day here with us as we're
Happy
recording this.
Father's
So happy Father's Day to
Happy
anybody out
Father's
there
Happy
Day.
Father's
Hey,
Day.
hey, yeah.
related. Oh, we're starting already. There we go. Trying to get me back from Metallica last week, aren't you? Let's see what's going on.
Yeah.
What? Oh, ooh. All right, ladies and gents, we are here to talk about the only band we could talk about here as we're recording on Father's Day that represents all fathers out there. Guns N' Roses. The most fatherly band of all. Maybe not. But we are here to talk about Guns N' Roses, ladies and gents. We're going to get to our top 10 favorite Guns N' Roses tunes, similar to our Metallica format from last week here. We'll introduce ourselves and go through maybe some of our experience with Guns N' Roses, the highs and lows and all things in between. Talk about the band maybe a little bit here and maybe some of the different albums they put out. And then we'll head into probably some honorable mentions. At least I would think. Maybe they have some out there. We'll let them tell us in a second. And then we'll get to our top 10. So I'm Cody here again with you. And who else is here this week?
I'm Joe.
And I'm Brett.
He's laughing off camera. Like, this is just you guys. All right. At least Brett had a little enthusiasm this week. My favorite ones are the ones Hudson's on, where he's just like, I'm Matt. 80-year-old disgruntledness comes through his voice. I love it.
Do I have to be here?
Yeah.
That was a shockingly good Hudson impression.
Right? I said I was going to get paid for this, right? No? Okay. All right. So we'll get into some Guns N' Roses here today. I'll let somebody else kick off today. Who wants to tell us what was your experience with Guns N' Roses? When did you hear about this band? What kind of history do you have listening to them? I think you both have maybe, well, I don't know, actually. Let's see. Does anybody have any intimate experience with them as well? Who wants to go first?
I mean, I guess I could start. I love Guns N' Roses. I've always loved Guns N' Roses. I think they're a band that my brother, I think I actually mentioned this with Metallica too. My brother's about 4 years older than me. And so he was always into like the cooler music before I was. And I remember he got Appetite for Destruction when it came out, and Lies, like he had all the CDs. I think the first GNR CD I actually owned was the Spaghetti Incident, which I don't have a lot to say about today, but it's because he owned them all and I just could borrow his and listen to them. But I mean, it kind of, again, like we talked about with Metallica last week, I also associate Guns N' Roses a lot with MTV. They had some pretty interesting music videos, and they were one of the kind of foremost rock bands of their time. I think, I mean, I've had kind of a lifelong obsession with guitar. I try to play a little bit. I'm not great, but I honestly think, I was thinking about this earlier, I think Slash is like part of the reason for that. Just like seeing him in all those videos early on and hearing his work on the albums. But he's just like always in my mind been like the pinnacle of just the cool rock star. Like, actually, for the folks at home, I actually have a background right now that is a still of Slash from the November Rain video. I also have a 1 liter bottle of Jack Daniel's bonded Tennessee whiskey that I'm drinking right now in honor of Slash, who I will eternally picture drinking Jack Daniel's out of a bottle and smoking a cigarette. But yeah, I just always thought they were cool. I love their music. Kind of fell off a little bit with the Spaghetti Incident, and then the band, kind of falling apart thereafter, which maybe you guys will talk about. But I mean, those first, 4 albums, Appetite for Destruction, Lies, and Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 are just masterpieces for the most part. Actually saw them a couple years ago now. I'm wearing the t-shirt from that concert, but when Slash and Axl buried the hatchet, or at least realized that they could make enough money together to make it worth, putting their differences aside.
There you go.
And reunited a couple years ago for a tour. My brother and I went to see them at Soldier Field in Chicago, which is the worst place you could see a concert, but it was still amazing. And yeah, I mean, they're just, in my opinion, one of the greatest American rock bands of all time.
Awesome. All right. Brett, how about you?
I would say that I guess my experience is kind of limited more to just what I heard on the radio. I don't have a lot. They're definitely one of the more kind of iconic, rock bands out there. It definitely took what kind of was left over from the 80s hair metal and evolved it into something new. They had a new sound to it, and it was definitely more grungy. It was kind of that transition between the hair metal and the grunge. And a lot of those hits are just kind of legendary at this point. There's just great music. I owned the first one I bought was Appetite for Destruction, and I later also bought Use Illusion 1 and 2, but I actually didn't go beyond that. I listened to Chinese Democracy like once before for preparation for this podcast, but really just kind of said, whatever. Because to me it was, at that point it's just basically Axl, still brandishing the Guns N' Roses name, and while some of the sound on that is similar, it's kind of not Guns N' Roses for me, but and honestly, like Spaghetti Incident kind of just went completely by me. I wasn't even aware of it for quite a while. And
stay safe.
It certainly is a band that I really enjoy their music. Is, as I said, like one of those kind of iconic, and I said Slash is kind of like he says, it's kind of like right near the top of the, as far as like, guitars, everybody kind of points to him as one of those top guys. And but yeah, I guess that's about, I don't have any like stories to go along with it. I guess that's the point I'm trying to get to, a long way around here. I don't have anything extra beyond what I heard on the radio.
Yeah, and I know you're a music fan, so that's plenty to have an opinion here tonight. So there we go. Here's a trivia question for all of you to start mine. So what is special about the song by Guns N' Roses, Ain't Going Down? You won't get it, so I'll just tell you. Its only official release was with the Guns N' Roses pinball game that came out.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there's that.
That's
anyway,
a cool little fact.
Yeah, cool little fact. Anyway, so my experience with Guns N' Roses, if you will, starts with my mother, who I think you've at least both met my mother at some point, and
Oh, I have.
she Jack Daniels is doing its work, folks. The fact that she was a mom but listened to like all that 80s rock stuff, Def Leppard, Guns N' Roses, Poison, Motley Crue, this was like her kind of music, and so I would listen to it all the time. She had all these on cassette. And so I remember like as what would I've been 7, 8 when Appetite came out, somewhere around there. And I remember seeing like the cassette that had the cross with the 5 skulls on the cross. And, one had a top hat and one had a bandana, and they're like smoking cigarettes. And I was like, what the hell is this? Oh my God, this is satanic-y, crazy looking stuff. So, but anyway, it kind of says a lot about my musical, my say your inspirations, I guess, because that was kind of the music I was raised into at that age already. So this was kind of like, I was used to this at that time. But I would say my song awareness of Guns N' Roses kind of went up and down. Like big time after Appetite, I listened to that probably 100 times, I'm sure, when I was young, and many times since then. And then the Use Your Illusions that they put out 1 and 2 in 1991. Which, can we just pause for a second and like, I don't know, we haven't done our rankings yet, but can we recognize that in 1 year they put out both of those albums like basically back to back, and how much content is on those?
They could have just released it as a double album together, but they probably made a lot more money this way.
Yeah, they would have made more money this way, but I mean,
it's not entirely unheard of for bands to do that. But.
No. But my point I'm getting at is not the monetary; it's the fact that I believe they have so many good songs on those 2 albums. I'm just saying, in 1 year they put out so many notable songs in a 1 year span. It's pretty crazy. So. What else do I have here about this? Just things I enjoy about this band in general. A lot of their songs are just all over the place with could be a sprawling epic tale that they tell, or some kind of soulful ballad. Guitar solos are very prevalent everywhere in here. Axl's voice, of course, has kind of got that scratchy, gravelly quality. Nobody really has a voice like Axl.
It's very unique.
I always compare Brian Johnson of AC/DC as the closest, but they're a little different still with how they sound. And then we had all the controversy with the band through the years that kind of, talk about this. I don't know. Kept them apart for a long, long time before they came back, Joe was saying here, with kind of Duff and Slash and some of the originals reforming the band and going on tour and things like that. But they had other things that I enjoyed about them. They're really big on whistling in their songs, which sounds like a stupid thing, but I love whistling in songs. I just
too.
do.
Wow.
I always have.
I can't believe we're agreeing on that.
Right? Karen was here. We know that would not be the case, but she is an anti-whistler. So what else do we have here? Evolution. I think there's a lot of evolution in this band as well, even from Appetite to the Illusions. You can see, more use of piano and a bigger stage presence, and more a theatrical presentation style. I mean, nothing really could compete with their, rockiness of Appetite for Destruction, but just a totally different show they were kind of throwing on when they got to those. And then after that, they didn't have anything after that. Let's just call that what that is. So let's see. Yeah, I don't know. A couple questions here I had for, I guess, you guys also to get started, just to kind of throw you out there on some other topics randomly, put you on the spot. But Joe, you had mentioned Slash as a guitarist was kind of an inspiration for you to maybe try to pick up guitar. And I've seen him ranked, and I kind of default to you, and maybe Brett, you might have more insight on this as well. But is Slash actually one of the best guitarists?
So I'm going to paraphrase this, but I actually just fairly recently read an interview with Slash where they were talking to him about his soloing technique, and paraphrasing, basically what he said is that he has personally never been interested in showing off, that when he does a guitar solo, it's always to add something to the song, and to he always wants his solos to feel of a piece with the song and feel like they're actually meant to be part of the song, and not just the guitarist going off, being flashy and showing off because he can. And I think you really get that if you listen to any of his solos. No matter how epic they get, it always feels absolutely necessary to that song. None of them feel overly long. None of them are oh God, is this ever going to end? Which I love Metallica, but we talked about them last week. There are a decent number of solos in their songs where it feels like they're just kind of thrown in there, because people expect them to be there. And I feel if you really kind of pay attention to the role that Slash's work plays in their songs, it does feel just vital, absolutely necessary. And I mean, I respect the hell out of that. I mean, technically, is he the, one of the greatest guitar players ever? Probably not. But as a guitar fan myself, pure technical skill is pretty low on my list of things that interest me. I've always been more into kind of blues-based playing, playing with a lot of feeling behind it, and, a lot of meaning. And I mean, I think he absolutely brings that to the table. So, as a technical guitarist, maybe not top 10, but as an important rock guitarist, I might put him in the top 10. I think he is, pretty high up there.
I would, I guess my thought was that, say soul over skill, generally speaking, is what makes a song great for me. As I was listening to a bunch of these songs back, I was in preparation, I kind of, at one point, kind of remarked to myself that, you know, a lot of these, like the meat of the song, either the guitar is kind of a little bit understated, or it's just not, it's there doing work and doing good work, but it's not like standing out or being like, wow, this is amazing guitar back here. You know, and then the solos, when the songs that have the solos, a lot of those are really great, you know, just phenomenal solos. And what, from what you said, in kind of just like thinking back some of the songs here, is that I would agree with that his solos really do kind of feel like part of the song. And again, going back, this Metallica was the reason for us that. And one of the points that I had made then was, a lot of times the bridge and the guitar solo almost feels like a different song, because it's like a completely different kind of tone at times, and a different beat. And while it sounds amazing, it does kind of feel like almost like a different bit of music. Whereas the Slash solos do feel like they enhance the song rather than being its own thing. And yeah, I guess to the point, I would, as like I kind of say, as I was thinking, that a lot of these songs don't sound like Slash is like an amazing guitarist until you get to that solo, and then that's when things really shine for him, in my eyes.
Well said. Well said. Okay. Last couple notes I had here before we get started is Axl Rose. Of course, if you're listening to this and know anything at all about this band, probably has a reputation as a bit of a control freak and doesn't play well in the sandbox with others at all time. And that kind of led to like a near 20-year split for the original band to the reunion tour here. But here's my question. I was thinking about this as I was typing out my notes today, and like we talked about Metallica last week, so again, I'll go back to them, but other bands you could think of too. So Guns N' Roses basically missed, but my point I'm getting at here, I'll find the years here in just a second. Here we go. So 87, Appetite, 88, GNR Lies, 91, Use Your Illusion 1, 91, Use Your Illusion 2, 1993, Chinese Democracy 2008, and now basically just the reunion tour, which started sometime around 2016. So we're talking from, let's say, 91 to 2016, 25 years. If you wanted to count Spaghetti Incident, I guess 22 years went by. So we're talking a long hiatus here of that original group kind of being together and doing anything, whether it was playing their own song or coming up with a new song. But my question, I guess, as I was writing this is, we talked about Metallica last week with like the lull period with Saint Anger, and kind of all the years around that, and maybe even a little bit bleeding into each side of that before and after. My question was, like, was this a good thing? In hindsight, was it a good thing that Guns N' Roses missed those 20 years? Yes, we would have lost potentially a lot of material from them, but now they have the luxury of like coming back in this 2016, 2020 world where people don't really expect them to put out new stuff now. Now, like, just being the retro act is enough to do a stadium tour worldwide for 5 years, and they can make $1 zillion off this. And there's no, other than a couple incidences here of some of these later albums, but they don't really have like that pox on their record, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, whereas other bands tried to do things for all of those years, maybe failed, maybe tarnished their image a little bit. We kind of get back to Guns N' Roses and they come back with more or less the original lineup, and we're like, hey, Guns N' Roses is back. So, I mean, was it a good thing?
Let me tell you a story about a musical artist who I admire quite a bit.
You say the words Nick Cave, so help me God.
His name is Billy Joel. That's it. That's all I have. No. So interesting thing about Billy Joel that I didn't know until recently, and I'm sure a lot of people have registered. Billy Joel has not released an album since 1993. He's been touring. He plays shows every year. He's raking in the money. But after his 1993 album, what is it? River of Dreams, that's the name of the album. He made a conscious decision to stop trying to write and record new music because he basically felt like he had said everything he had to say. He wrote all the best songs he could have written already. and he didn't want to become one of the artists who continues to release new albums, year after year, and continues to decline in quality. So he has basically been touring on all of his old material ever since 1993. And honestly, while there are some artists, I mentioned last week a couple who I think, have managed to put out quality material and improve year after year, I have to admire a band who is comfortable saying, hey, we wrote a bunch of good songs. We're going to keep playing them live. We know what people want to hear. So I guess to answer your question, Cody, I think maybe in the case of Guns N' Roses, it was a good thing, especially given what kind of happened, around the end of their original run and then Chinese Democracy. Like,
China got
know.
democracy? Did you say that?
What? No.
China got democracy?
But I mean, I don't know if there really is a version of history where Guns N' Roses stayed together throughout the 90s and like continued to put out masterpieces like their first 3 or 4 albums. So I think ultimately it is probably a good thing that, they have that material. Like, they're back touring now. They sound great, but I think they might have just, tarnished their reputation even more if they had put out more music.
Yeah, that does seem like a fair thought. I mean, really, they only had 3.5 albums, and they all came out in like 4 years.
Yeah.
So
Not wrong.
Really, that's kind of the extent of Guns N' Roses' original music. Because Spaghetti Incident was all cover songs. I don't think there was an original song on there, was it? It was just all covers. So
I believe you're correct.
I wouldn't even count that as a Guns N' Roses album exactly. That's why I was saying like 3.5 albums.
Yeah.
And then, as I said before, Chinese Democracy is basically just Axl and a bunch of new guys. So I don't exactly count that as a Guns N' Roses album either. So yeah, I mean, what's incredible is that in those short 4 years that they have enough music to fill a whole stage show. And so
yeah,
it kind of like
it's like they're all hits too. Like,
it really does. Yeah. I can't say there's really any bands who just keep putting out great music through the entire. Everybody has a fall off at some point, and some are lower than others. But yeah, basically everything they released was great, and yeah, I guess it worked out in a way.
Kind of got lucky, yes, I guess. Yeah, in some ways. Okay, last question. I got, what else do we got here? I don't know. Just as a Guns N' Roses fan, as like a teenager and a kid, like seeing the struggle for them to get to Chinese Democracy even was like tormenting, just to see. I don't know how many. What's the year count on this again here?
That's a good point. Yeah, because Axl was making that album for like 10 years.
Yeah, when did they announce that? Because I remember that was like question. An ongoing thing. Like at a certain point, it was like it just felt like a myth, like something that was never going to happen.
Yeah, it was a punchline. Like everybody's like, "Oh ho ha, Axl's talking about making this album yet."
Wikipedia has it recorded from 1998 to 2007.
Wow.
Okay.
It feels like it has to be some kind of record.
And I was reading an article earlier about somebody bought a storage locker, and apparently it was a former record executive who had the cuts, the actual original recordings of the attempts to make a record from Chinese Democracy, and they found 19 discs worth of material.
Wow, you could sell that on eBay for like $5.
Oh, Axl would buy it.
I will say that leading up to this podcast is the first time I ever actually listened to Chinese Democracy, and it was not as terrible as I expected.
Yep.
It's not That's good. Fair. It's not great, but it's really not terrible.
That's probably my review as well.
Would you say
it's not terrible?
Better than you thought?
I would say it was like a lot better than I expected. Honestly. Oh, is that a reference to?
Meta.
Oh boy.
That's right.
Anyway, it's probably I'm going to assume that might be the last time we talk about Chinese democracy on this podcast. But knowing Cody, I wouldn't be too surprised if I'm wrong.
You didn't limit us to 2 per album this time. All 10 Chinese democracy. My top 190 I chose were all from, were all outtakes from Chinese democracy. All right. Last thing I just had here. I don't know. Just before we jump in actual songs. What do you guys think of Axl as like a front man and a talent himself? So I was thinking about this. Like, he seems like he is obviously egotistical, as I said at the outset, but he does also seem like he's a really, really talented musician, not only in like lyrical writing, but also in performing and playing piano and like as a front man on a band. Like, what's your overall impression of this guy?
It's kind of funny how probably many of the best frontmen in, at least in rock, limit that to rock, probably the majority of the best frontmen in rock are caustic and destructive to their music. But somehow that's what brings out the talent, at least for a time. And I would say it definitely, the kind of look, it was often came out with the bandana, and just, I guess the way he moved around on stage, I know is something that I think a lot of people would kind of relate to him. That Joe's doing this swaying right now. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. He somehow must not have he's like missing some vertebrae or something.
He's like a snake.
He can move like a snake. And but yeah, I would say that he's got to be, almost like, I kind of, the first name that came to mind was like Cobain. Kind of like that kind of same caliber, maybe.
Just in terms of like presence, influence.
Yeah, kind of just to the status of, there's just something about him that kind of makes him like, kind of has a bit of a legendary status to him.
Yeah.
Sociopaths are often magnetic. No, I mean, I agree. Like, he's an icon. I mean, as you guys have said, he's a phenomenal performer. He is an amazing pianist, which I don't think he gets enough credit for. I mean, it comes out on some of the songs, but if you see them live, he always kind of, throws in a little extra time on the piano. But yeah, I mean, just as a rock frontman, he is kind of one of the, quintessential frontmen in the history of rock and roll. As Brett said, he definitely has kind of a signature look and signature moves. And, say what you will about him being a raging asshole, he knows how to work a crowd and, how to give a performance. So
yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, he's very seen, I guess, if that's like a way we can describe him on the stage. He does have a presence. He has magnetism, I guess, like you were just saying. Like, he just draws people in. It's kind of interesting, Brett, you were saying too, the frontmen are often caustic. I was thinking about that too. Like, after the original people left in like the early 90s, like, why was he unable to make a successful Guns N' Roses record for the next 20 years, or argue since then, I guess we could say. And it is, I feel like he's talented enough that like he should have been able to put something together, even just based on his own songwriting skills, and like his base it around him in the piano and bring in some guitarists and some bassists and some drummers or whatever you want to add to it. And then there should have been a way to make something work in there, and yet there wasn't. So it's like he only was successful when he had someone of a good stature to argue against, I guess. It's kind of weird. I don't know, like, it's just interesting.
I bet I wonder if that is part of it. I know that a lot of, very creative people really need someone to tell them no. Yeah. And I feel like maybe I don't know much about like the attempts to record Chinese democracy, but I would imagine that that's a big part of the problem, is that he was the one running the show by himself and like didn't have anyone to kind of rein him in a little bit and, keep him on track and tell him no.
Also, I was just gonna say, like, I wonder how many times in those 16 years somebody said to him, "Yes, Axel, that's a good decision." Like, I would guess it's a lot,
Well,
and
yeah.
yet nothing came out of it. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Probably a lot of people trying to stick their fingers in that cookie jar.
I'm sure. My gosh, get the keys to the Guns N' Roses kingdom. Yeah, absolutely. All right, are we ready to jump into this? Anybody else have anything before we jump in?
Woo!
Apparently that cat has something to contribute.
I'm the only one home this week, so I have a house
Uh,
full of cats. It's going to be cat central here.
Got them honorable mentions.
I do. Let's do some honorable mentions here. We're going to turn the tables, though. We're going to make Joe go first this time.
No.
Ooh.
All right. I'm hoping this will be somewhat shocking and controversial. I have two honorable mentions. The first of which is, are you ready? Are you sitting down?
Yes.
Paradise City.
Okay.
Unexpected.
Yeah, one of their best known songs. It's iconic in its own right. It's a good song. It's a good like stadium rock song.
All true.
I don't think it's like a great song. There are things about it I like, but it's not one of their best songs in my opinion. So
Have you been down to the Paradise City?
I have. It's my favorite club.
You're in Michigan. Have you been up to Paradise?
I have been there as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's a crowd pleaser. It's a good rock song, but I think they have much better material. And should I say my other one or
Yeah.
My other one is possibly the most problematic song ever written.
Ooh.
And that is
You threw a Billy Joel song in here?
Little ditty off of Lies called Used to Love Her.
Yay.
Which it's mostly out there for weird nostalgic reasons. There's when I was in my
Where's this story going?
Yeah, I'm curious now.
I mean, she's buried right in my backyard. No, when I was at school, I was renting a house with a couple friends in Marquette for a while, and I used to like to torture them by playing my own rendition of that song on acoustic guitar and singing it at the top of my lungs. So a little throwback nostalgia. It's a catchy song. It's just like super fucked up. And I mean, I was gonna kind of bring this up when we were just talking about Axel. Like, I mean, this is obviously like, putting it at the forefront, but there is a lot, like, I wonder, aside from, him being super egotistical, like, there's a lot of really dark stuff in Guns N' Roses songs if you pay attention to a lot of the lyrics and stuff. And I kind of wonder like what's going on inside there sometimes.
I mean, there's very little positivity coming out if you go through the songs.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like there's this weird kind of menace to like almost all of their songs.
And yet completely different than like what you were both talking about with Metallica last week.
Yeah.
Which
Well, because I mean, with Metallica, it's like it almost feels like an act, or like. But I say, like with Metallica, the sense of menace is like performative. Like that's like the point of heavy metal to a large extent, is to like, capture that sense of like dread and anger, and
Those topics are expected to be in
metal. Like you're like venting your frustration with the world, and like, yeah. But with Guns N' Roses, I mean, they're like a hard rock band, but I feel like the sense of menace is like, it feels more genuine and kind of more creepy a lot of the time. Like it's just kind of like woven in there, and like you might not even pick up on it if you're not paying attention.
You're not really listening to the words and you're just grooving to the music.
You're like, just like rocking out, but like if you pay attention, you're like, has Axl Rose actually killed someone? Like what is going on there?
Has he killed someone during this song?
Anyway, what do you guys have for your honorable mentions?
All right, Brett, what do you got?
All right. Well, got two of them off of Appetite. I got Night Train and Mr. Brownstone. And then I gave a little bit of love to Chinese Democracy, which it really isn't a bad song. It's not terrible. It
The You're talking about the title track?
The title track, yes, not the album in totality, but yeah, it what's kind of cool about it is it has a lot of the old sounds of Guns N' Roses, which to be fair is a lot of the vocals, Axl's vocals, are there and still sound the same. So that instantly kind of brings some of that sound in. But it's like they took kind of the kind of the bass sound and the melodies, and it's definitely more like modern music sound to it. It's like a more modern rock kind of thing rather than that kind of remnant of the 80s hair metal kind of sound. So yeah, it was, I liked it enough to get at least an honorable.
That's fair. Okay, my honorable mention list is very long, so I pre-apologize for this, and it probably tips my hand a little bit as to what might be left on my tops. But my 3 shout outs this week, I gave 2 for Chinese Democracy. One was Joe's song Better that he already made fun of me for, but I thought it was decent. And Catcher in the Rye, I kind of liked a little bit from Chinese Democracy. And then my third funny one for that is Brett. Now I'm trying to think, you may have come along a little after this in my life, but a certain mutual acquaintance of ours used to always sing the lyrics to Get in the Ring when we would be at bowling on bowling league, which he thought was very funny. So
I vaguely remember something along those lines.
I believe you don't currently speak to this person, if I'm correct. Or
okay, that's the same person. That's
the better way to put that.
Yes,
so,
that does fit into the story that I was remembering. Yes.
All right, and then my actual honorable mentions here, I have Knocking on Heaven's Door. These are all considered for my top 10. I just took them out today. I should mention too, like these aren't like fluff and honorable mentions. I legit took these out today. Knocking on Heaven's Door, Estranged, Live and Let Die, Don't Cry, Used to Love Her, Pretty Tied Up, You Could Be Mine, and 14 Years. And it's been 14 years. Moving on.
Nobody needed that.
All right.
I would also like to give a quick shout out to.
Oh yes, go ahead.
I just want to throw Live and Let Die on my list retroactively because it's a pretty good cover.
Is it their best cover?
Well, maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Maybe we will.
I thought about putting that on my list proper, but I decided not to because when I saw Guns N' Roses a couple years ago, in the same week, I also saw Paul McCartney live, and his version of Live and Let Die actually rocked harder than Guns N' Roses is. So I can't put their version on my list with that knowledge.
I mean, it's okay to be wrong. Let's move on.
Anyway.
Okay, we're at the top 10 official here. And I don't know, Brett, you don't have an aggregate for us this week, do you?
I can do it as we go.
All right. Yeah. If you don't mind, I'd be curious on this one as well. It may end up to all be for nothing, like last week.
I did have the spreadsheet that I used last week. I did pull it up, so I have it here ready to go.
Nice.
Other than I don't have things written in, but I'll just type them in as we go.
I suspect we'll have some stronger tracks still that are near the top of this one, but I think it's going to be a little more muddled here.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
All right, let's start off number 10. Joe, you got us.
All right, this is another one that I feel like I'm maybe rating a more popular song lower, but coming in at number 10 for me is Whoa, Whoa, Sweet Child O' Mine.
Okay.
It's a good song. The riff is iconic. I think for me, it's just that it almost feels too light. Like to me, it kind of feels like their attempt at writing a pop song almost. It's kind of like, most of it at least is kind of like light and breezy. And then there's that kind of weird, dark kind of breakdown towards the end, but it's just, it's almost like there's just not much substance to the song for me, I guess, besides some iconic guitar work from Slash. But also the a cappella version of the song featured in the movie Step Brothers is the best version of the song.
Can't remember that.
As performed by Adam Scott and Catherine Hahn and some actors playing their children.
Wow. I don't remember that either, but I'm going to check that out. All right, Brett.
Number 10, I have You Could Be Mine, which kind of it's I would say it's one of their kind of the faster bass beat songs. It kind of comes at you a little bit. It starts out with the drums and then the bass hitting the start, and it feels a bit more kind of fast. It's not like fast like thrash fast, but it a bit faster than some other stuff. And to my ears, anyways, it sounds a bit more complex kind of throughout the song. And maybe that's not technically correct, but though that's the way I hear it in my ears. But just a fun song, pretty catchy. Not much more to say about that. Just gotta enjoy that one. So,
all right. My number 10 coming off of Use Your Illusion 2 is Yesterday's. Simple song. I feel like it's kind of one of their lighter ones, but I just kind of like the message behind this. It's a really catchy tune, and it's just kind of, I don't know, I was reading a little bit about this. It was kind of like their song they put out to like just leave the past behind, all the good and the bad that they had before this, and just kind of move on into the Use Your Illusion era. And this was just kind of part of that. And I just think it's like a good message everyone could relate to. Like, you got the past and you got what you look forward to in the future. So it's my number 10, Yesterday's. All right, number 9.
My number 9, I have, I believe, a song that was one of Brett's honorable mentions, Mr. Brownstone. Song about heroin. I love songs about heroin. You laugh, but that's actually a fact. A couple of my favorite songs are about heroin.
Doesn't mean I won't laugh still.
No, it's just a good, like, weirdly kind of bluesy song. Like, if I don't know how much you guys know about like music and whatnot, but it's kind of based around like a Bo Diddley beat, which is a like boop 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 kind of thing. And like it's not something that I would have, I mean, I've known the song forever, but like on its surface, it's not something that you would necessarily expect Guns N' Roses to kind of base a song around. But it's also just, kind of a great rock song. I mean, it's,
You're talking about the Bo Diddley beat or drugs? Because I would totally.
Yeah, I mean both.
Oh, no, I think they would have a song about drugs.
The Bo Diddley beat, mainly. But,
oh, okay.
It's also, I mean, I feel like it's a good. There are kind of different modes of Axl Rose. I feel like there are a few different like approaches to vocals that he takes, and this one is kind of less screamy, more kind of like lower register. He's almost kind of like rapping throughout a lot of it, but it's I feel like it's a good example of like a certain flavor of Axl Rose.
Flavor, like that. All right, Brett.
All right, number 9. I got one of a couple of covers I got here, "Knocking on Heaven's Door." It's just a great song, on its own. I feel like their version is really well done. It seems to fit. So the thought I was having earlier was, like the original is obviously very kind of low and kind of melancholy, but they managed to actually make it kind of a bit more upbeat and like fun. I guess, sort of. And I don't know, I feel like they just did a really good job of covering that one. And that combined with just the song being good on its own is enough to get up to number 9 on my list.
Can't forget the live version where he throws in the reggae verse randomly as well. True. All right, let's go to my number 9. I hate when this happens. Agreeing with Joe. It's Mr. Brownstone. Number 9, Mr. Brownstone.
Can I just let me interject for a second, Cody?
Yeah.
Did you propose this as a podcast topic just so you could torture us with your Axl Rose impression the entire time?
Maybe. I don't have much to add about this one. Yeah, I just said it's a great hard rocking tune, good guitar riffs on this one. Drug Addiction is kind of a darker song, but not totally. I don't know. It's just still a fun one. It's kind of like that album Appetite is so loaded with stuff too. I feel like Mr. Brownstone probably gets lost in the greatest hits quite a bit, but
That is kind
Yeah.
of another example, though, of like, I mean, that it does sound like just like a fun rock song, but the lyrics are about how, if you get hooked on heroin, like you have to do more and more because it's like a little isn't enough anymore. And it's like, it is like super dark.
I like how you just took the lyrics and made it sound like it was your own thought by
Well, no,
switching
but
the lyrics over. I'm joking.
you
I'm
know what,
joking.
Cody, I
I feel like you need more and more. I don't know, like just a
it's
little
like you
wouldn't
just
do
need
it,
more and more.
but
It's like, how much of
all
this Jack
right.
Daniels am I going to drink over the course of this podcast? Let's
Hey,
find out.
I don't tell you my drink tonight in honor of Guns N' Roses. This is in honor of the song they have that rhymes with Rot Run Ruse. This is the Shotgun Blues
Ah, nice.
rummer here with some Jones Cola.
Nice.
So not cola, sorry, Jones something. I don't know, berry or some crap. Anyway.
Well, while we're sharing, I had some vodka left over and I didn't have a mixer, so I threw it in my kid's pink lemonade drink and it tastes delicious.
Oh,
So,
I bet.
That sounds like it would be good.
That does sound good. All right. Number 8Cs. We're cruising.
You could be mine. You could be mine at number 8. It's just a good song. I mean, Brett kind of already said most of what I could say about it. Like, I love how it just hits you up front with the drums, which you don't really hear a lot on Guns N' Roses songs. It's just like with like these hard drums right up front, and then there's this kind of groovy bass line that kicks in, and then you finally get the guitar. Yeah, it's just a great rock song. It was featured, we were talking about this before we started recording. It was also featured on the soundtrack to the motion picture Terminator 2: Judgment Day. And apparently Arnold Schwarzenegger himself actually liked the song and invited the band over to his house to try to like work out the deal to feature the song in the movie. So that would have been an interesting dinner to be at.
I just say the 3 words together, Judgment Day, just does not do wonders in my head.
as a 40-plus-year-old, that has a completely different meaning.
Oh, it's true. This is TMI, but I actually need to get a colonoscopy this year. So hopefully it will not be Judgment Day.
Well, there it is, folks.
Anyway, Brett, what do you have for number 8?
Number 8. I'm going with one of the earlier soft songs, which is "Patience" of Lies.
Whistling.
Yes, it's right up the whistling. And what's great about this one is it's all acoustic. They drop the electrics and go to the acoustics, and I'm always a big fan of that. But it also, and the note I made here was, you would think from Appetite that Axl's voice really is kind of like it was made for like the raw sound and like kind of like screaming a bit, but I don't think he gives it enough. He's not like great, like really like beautiful vocals, but on this track, it does a really great job, and I don't think he gets quite enough credit for that. The softer, kind of more emotional stuff. But yeah, I love just the way this thing, kind of flows along, and then his lyrics and the vocals at the end are really outstanding. Because they like kind of like it's kind of like soft throughout, and then he kind of elevates a bit, and that last little verse, and really kind of brings it home. So, Patience, number 8.
All right, my number 8 has been mentioned already. We're going to go back down to the Paradise City here for this one. 1987's Appetite for Destruction again. Yeah, I just said, kind of Joe's criticisms are some of the same problems I had. This wasn't on my top 10 originally, and then when I reshuffled these a few times today, it did sneak in here at number 8. But this one I find interesting because it seems like it really showcases how Axl would inflect his voice to try to match the guitar in the songs. And I remember I had watched an interview one time with David Lee Roth, and he had said he always tried to get his voice to match what Eddie Van Halen was doing with the guitar at the time. And this kind of just made me think of that, where Axl, goes wherever the guitar is going to go to try to keep up with it, whether he has to go really high or kind of lower, like the last song Brett was just talking about. But he has the ability to kind of mimic the actual music with his voice, which is, I mean, it's kind of impressive because he comes out as doing a fairly good job, whether it's high or low or wherever he's going to take that. And I'm just amazed by this guy too, because I used to always mess around and do like the Axl impression too, but like it strains your vocal cords so much to even mess around with that. So his must just be either like superhuman or that's just how he's built or something. I don't know, like to do multiple ones that way. But anyway, yeah, I kind of agree. I remember, when I was in maybe first, would have been later in that, like third, fourth grade, maybe somebody did Paradise City for the talent show in elementary school as well. I don't know why that just popped in my head, but yeah, I agree with Joe. It's kind of a simple song, but it's still a good song. It's still a good song through and through. Paradise City is my number 8.
I feel like if it was like 2 minutes shorter, it might have made my list. I just feel like it's a little too long.
It's a long trip to the Paradise City.
But I mean, speaking of long songs,
uh-oh,
when you're talking to yourself and nobody's home. My number 7 is Estranged, which is just like, I don't even know how to describe this song. It's just this weird, like super emo epic. I think it's almost 10 minutes long. Like, it's just kind of a masterpiece of Axl Rose being up in his feelings and just like going for it. I mean, there's also some, great guitar work throughout it, like from Slash, and I think we get a little bit of piano in there too. But it's just kind of like, it simultaneously rocks, but also is just like Axl Rose diving straight into his emotions and like putting it all out there. And I think it's a great song.
All right. Well, go with my number 7 here. I got Civil War. What I have here is I'm not sure if this song really has anything inspirational to say exactly, and not like groundbreaking, but it sounds like it does. And the piano in the song is excellent. It really it really brings out an extra facet of the song that makes it stand out. And that the guitar solo towards the end is exceptional. And just great all around. It, like I say, it sounds like it's trying to say a lot, and maybe it is, but it also doesn't necessarily sound like its original thoughts, but still quite enjoyable all the same.
Good choice. All right, my number 7, we're going back to GNR Lies here, and this is been mentioned as well. This is Patience as my number 7. And yeah, I kind of had some similar notes that were already mentioned here before with the acoustic guitar. I just said it's kind of some real applicable to anybody type lyrics. Again, unlike some of the Joe really does have Jack Daniels in one hand, but some of their songs, as we mentioned, are like, I have a bottle of Jack in one hand and a knife with blood in the other because I just stabbed somebody or whatever. So, but this one's really stripped down, and I made kind of note on this one, like I was just talking about Axl's voice, but like this one, he's dear viewers, listeners, Joe actually does have a bottle of Jack in one hand and a knife in the other. So, but yeah, he almost sounds like
a smile on his face,
and a smile on his face too. Yes, he has the guns and the roses. My gosh, what was I saying here? Oh yeah, his voice in this one, like he's almost talking in Patience. He's not really even singing for most of the song. It's just like, but his voice again, like, has this sonorous quality where he just sounds like he's singing even when he's basically talking, because it's Axl Rose's voice. So also my number 7 here, this is Patience.
Nice.
Joe's next bad pick.
Well, my number 6 is actually Brett's number 7, which is Civil War. I mean, as with a lot of Guns N' Roses,
Hold up, Joe. Hold up.
Yo,
I don't need your Civil War. Did it?
But Cody, look at you young men fighting.
It's just the way they've always done before.
I mentioned this on the Metallica podcast last week, which I apologize that I keep throwing back to that, but one of my favorite like song structures is a song that starts off like really mellow and stripped down and then like builds on that. And Guns N' Roses like are kind of masters of that. Like they have a lot of songs that are kind of structured that way. And I mean, this is one of them. It starts off, what actually starts off with, first of all, there's whistling, which I love. Like I will always love a song that features whistling.
Really?
Possible spoilers for a future entry on my list. There's also an excerpt from the movie Cool Hand Luke, which is kind of weird, but it works somehow. But then we get this, you know, the kind of stripped down, like almost hushed Axl Rose vocals up front for the first verse. And then it just builds, you know, eventually we get the electric guitar kick in and he gets into the more screamy vocals. And I mean, as Brett said, I don't know if I like the message that they're trying to convey. I don't know if they're really doing it super well or originally. I actually was kind of read a little bit of like the reaction to this song before the podcast, and someone said something to the effect of, I don't know if Civil War is a good civil rights song, but it's a great rock song. And I think that's fair. Like if you actually look at the lyrics, you know, there's not a whole lot of, you know, a whole lot there, but it makes you think that they're trying to say something and it sounds good while they're doing it. So that's all that matters.
It's all that matters, not the actual civil rights. It's all that matters. All right, where are we at? Brett, 7? No, 6.
6.
Yes.
We're jumping up this.
My number 6 is one that I thought you guys were going to have higher yourselves, but another cover here, Live and Let Die. What's really cool about this song is the fact that Paul McCartney wrote this song, and it I guess I haven't listened to a whole lot. To be fair, I haven't listened to a lot of Paul McCartney music on his own, but this is a song that doesn't feel like it should be in his library. You know, it is very, you know, that riff is just legendary.
It's Power of Wings.
Yeah, it he just had some Red Bull. It's way harder than you know what I would attribute normally to Paul McCartney, but you know, it certainly fits in really well with the Guns N' Roses, and this version they did is just incredible to me. It you know, the vocals, now I lost my notes here. I think the vocals really shine the song, and what's kind of one of the standouts is like at the end of each verse, he like kind of screams into the mic, and it just like when that riff kind of hits in at the same time, it just kind of it blends in together. It just makes a great pairing. So that's my number 6.
We knew Guns N' Roses sang a Bond theme. That counts, right, Joe?
I mean, no. Sir Paul McCartney sang a Bond theme.
Would have made the movie better. Well, maybe not. Anyway,
I mean that's
a whole nother podcast. Anyway,
it's my favorite Roger Moore Bond movie.
Okay.
I mean, it's like 90%. Well, it's like 75% because of the theme song, and then the other 25% is because Jane Seymour is a fox in the movie. So
that's fair. All right, coming to our halfway point here. My number 6 is one I don't think has been mentioned yet here. This is off Appetite for Destruction, and this is Welcome to the Jungle. Welcome to the Jungle. This one just felt applicable, I don't know, really to like kind of the inner city tough life turmoil, you know, like survive and do what you can if it means to put somebody else down to get you up type thing. Let's see here. What do I have on this one? You know, just I don't really have a lot of notes on this, just that I really enjoy the song. All the instruments have a good showcase in this one, Axl's voice, and I believe this is the opening track. Is that right?
Sure is. First track on their first album.
So this was the, you know, like if you were to pick up their music originally, this would have been the first thing you would have heard screaming out at you. So there it is, boom in your face. Welcome to the Jungle, my number 6.
Nice. My number 5 is the only cover that is making it on my proper list. And that is a cover of Bob Dylan's Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Sympathy for the Devil.
No.
Oh.
I actually did not originally have this song on my list, but the more I thought about it, the more this is just an essential Guns N' Roses song for me. I mean, first of all, this is a song that, I mean, not only was it like written and originally performed by Bob Dylan, but it's been covered by a lot of people. And I think the Guns N' Roses version is kind of like the definitive version for me. I mean, there are two things that kind of put it over the top for me. One, the guitar solo is, to me, is a perfect example of what I was talking about before, you know, Slash always trying to make the solo fit the song and serve the song. Like the solo in this song is just like, I could like hum the entire thing. Like it is just perfect. And
We have time, I think.
No, maybe. No, but I mean, again, like it's, you know, we we're talking before, it's not the flashiest, you know, it's not like super fast. He's not shredding or like doing anything crazy. It is kind of like a, you know, a pretty slow, you know, his tone, like, I mean, well, it's kind of the essential Slash tone, but he's not doing anything particularly crazy, but it is just perfect for this song. And it really like, it carries, you know, that portion of the song. It feels essential. The other thing, and the reason I really had to put this on my list, is that in my mind, this is like peak Axl Rose vocals. Like in my head, if someone says, you know, Axl Rose to me, what I hear in my mind is hi, 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 yeah. Like he just has these like vocalizations in this song that like are just, I always associate with him. I actually like have written out in my notes for this song, hi, hi, yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's just like that is, it's a distillation of Axl Rose, like his vocals on this song to me. So I had to put it on there.
All right. Well, coming in at my number 5, I have Paradise City. Both of you have mentioned already, and I didn't fit it in when you were talking about before, but I mean, I kind of agree with what you're getting at before, is that it's basically like one verse and then the chorus just repeated like to eternity, more or less. And the reason why it works is because that chorus is so darn good and so catchy. It certainly is, you know, like it's like an earworm. Once you hear that, it just doesn't want to get out. And if it's a song that, you know, it kind of inspires, you know, people always want to like, you know, sing to this song. It's like kind of the one that everybody's just gonna like bust out singing.
Yeah.
And so that you know, for most for most bands, that, you know, kind of gives us some extra points for me. And also there's a 99.9% chance that this will get played at Greeka's Tavern every single night. That's I've done the math. It's fact. So
I gotta check that when I'm home this summer. See if that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but I feel like I feel like I have a pretty solid mental image of this place just based on what you just said.
You kind of like if the wooden nickel was 5% classier and 4 times.
Kind of what I was picturing.
It's kind of the local institution in Rogers City.
Yep.
But,
which, by the way, yeah, you guys, well, obviously Joe wouldn't know, but Cody, they sold it, and it's like they like really like cleaned it up.
I think I've been there once since it was renovated.
It looks really different now. Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
I'll have to say, is the bathroom still scary?
I haven't been in the bathroom now, but I'm sure it's
not that you're going to admit. Okay.
I'm actually curious, like how many of the like carvings and stuff are gone now. If they left those for sentimental value, or if those are gone.
Well, we're gonna have to check this out. Come a couple months here. All right. My number 5. Has this one been mentioned? Yes, it has. Joe's been mentioning this one already. All right, 1987 Appetite for Destruction. Again, going back for the 4th time here for Appetite on my list, and this is Sweet Child of Mine. Yeah, basically, I just said kind of whatever's already been said here. Just really showcases the voice. Arguably, probably the song the band is best known for, I would say. in terms of just being like a solid radio crowd pleasing song. This is just really has it all. Supposedly, I was reading about this was a poem that he had written originally to a girl, and then that was developed into the song, I guess, Sweet Child of Mine, about the girl. But yeah, it has love, has heartbreak, has it all, and you've already all broken this down already. So that's my number 5, Sweet Child of Mine.
Where do we go now? I did actually read. Did you read the trivia about that?
Maybe. What do you have?
That ending breakdown part where he just says, "Where do we go? Where do we go now?" Apparently, I think it was the producer they were working with on the track suggested that they have kind of like a low key breakdown part at the end, and Axl was struggling to figure out like what kind of lyrics to put over that part. So he was sitting there just like listening to what they had on loop and just saying to himself, like, where do we go now? Like, where do we go now? And the producer was like, just sing that and like go for it. And it works.
It works, yeah.
Cool. So number 4.
Getting up there now.
Getting up there, going straight into weird sad boy territory, which is where I live.
Uh-oh.
And number 4, I have what was apparently the first song that Axl Rose wrote with members of the band after Guns N' Roses had formed, and that is Don't Cry. And it's just like, I mean, the lyrics are pretty simple, pretty straightforward premise. But I just think it's, again, just a amazingly structured song. Starts off, really quiet and slow and kind of builds. I also think it kind of showcases, the whole range of Axl's vocal capabilities. It starts off really mild, and like by the end, he's doing his like kind of screaming vocals. There's also just some, again, awesome guitar work from Slash. Like it starts off, and actually kind of what Brett was saying before about Slash, how for a lot of the song you don't really even notice the guitar that much, and then it's there. And like I think this is a great example of that, where it's like pretty low key, and then all of a sudden the guitar just like announces itself. But yeah, I just think it's a really good song. I kind of love GNR, exploring the kind of more emotional side of things. And yeah, it's my number 4.
Like it. All right, number 4 for me, I have Sweet Child of Mine, which both of you have gone over a bit. I guess what I would add, this certainly, adds a bit more to it since I've become a father. And, whether or not the lyrics are specifically, talking about children, but it, that's the way I kind of interpret it. And yeah, it's really catchy. I just kind of like, I can agree with the guys I said before. So one thing I would add is it's probably one of the better guitar solos from Slash in the song. Just really enjoy that one. And yeah, because I don't have anything else other new to add to it.
Okay, my number 4 this is kind of a rare one now. This is a song that I have actually increased my love for through the years, and it continues to move up, which is kind of weird because usually you have your favorites and you whatever. But this is from 1988's GNR Lies, and this is gonna be Move to the City. I love this song. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Sounds like a little mini orchestra, and it's got a good beat to it. And really, I probably have 50% love it just because Axl is just totally playing around with wordplay here and just screwing around with his voice and making it fun. But it's a doom to doom. It's got a lot of good stuff going on. I could see how this would be like a really good one if they played it live as well. Just get the crowd up and moving, and it's got kind of a like a real, it's not even really heavy metal. It's just kind of like more rock with with some stuff going on in the background. But I love this song and continue to move up my list of favorites I like by GNR. So this is Move to the City, my number 4.
Nice. That's awesome. Going to the top 3. My goodness. Oh, man. I have a question for you guys.
Is it a spaghetti instinct question mark?
Do you know where you are? You're in the jungle, baby.
I'm gonna die.
You're gonna die. My number 3 is Welcome to the Jungle. I mean, as Cody mentioned, this is the opening track off of Appetite for Destruction, which is their first album, and I would be hard pressed to name you like a more impressive just first song, first album from any band. Like, this is the first thing you're hearing from Guns N' Roses. It's just phenomenal. Like, it's just an insane album opener. It is just an amazing rock song. I mean, I there's not really a whole lot I can say about it. It's just a phenomenal rock song. I mean, you get the full Axl effect, you get, you know, rocking guitar riffs. It's pretty much everything you could want. And it's just like, what a way to announce the arrival of a band. Like, it's fantastic.
Can I add a trivia tidbit to that? He just made me, for some reason, pop into my head. The wrestling tag team, the Steiner brothers. I had to double check this while you were talking, but it is true. Use Welcome to the Jungle as their entrance music for a while when they wrestled way back in the early days of WCW. So
It's also the official theme song of the company I work for. So
really,
yeah. There's a life-size cardboard cutout of Axl Rose in our office.
I have a lot of questions, but I'll ask them to you off the air. So
All right, I guess it's down to me then. Number 3, I have a song Joe just recently talked about, Don't Cry. And I guess for similar reasons. I'm a sucker for sad songs. So this one really hits me.
Uh-oh.
And you know, it certainly is one of the more, you know, more emotional Guns N' Roses songs. And what's kind of funny is that the lyrics say "Don't cry," but that's kind of like all I want to do. Really. So it's just really for a band that, and this is something I enjoy as well, is that, you know, a band that really is very kind of appears really hard, and a lot of their songs are just, you know, rocking in your face. When they can make a song of this kind of emotional quality with, you know, that they're really, and as good as a quality, really great song, it gives it like extra bonus points for me, because, you know, it shows the, you know, really incredible range that they were able to do. And yeah, it's just a great all-around song, and love it.
Really curious where these lists are going to end up at.
I'm wondering if we're all going to have the same number 1.
I'm intrigued what's left. All right, my number 3 is a song that hasn't been mentioned yet tonight. It is my all-time, well, maybe not all-time, but for a very, very, very long time has been my favorite track off of Appetite for Destruction. And this is My Michelle. Talk about a dark intro. I would argue it's probably the darkest intro with that little chords going in the beginning there of any song, with the do 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 do, and then it gets at the you know, it goes all crazy there. Yeah, it's happening, Joe. It's happening. You okay?
Oh, I just want to apologize to all of our listeners.
Oh man,
all 5 of our listeners who just had to hear that.
Hey, we have an average audience between 13 and 17. Don't kid yourself. 10 of which are us. But anyway. This song, I just love it. It's kind of dark. It's a little different. I like it probably also partially because it's not Paradise City or Welcome to the Jungle or Sweet Child of Mine. And this is like another one that's supposedly based on a true story about, just like the lyrics say, a girl who was caught up in the, you know, the dark life after her mom died because of drug overdose, and now she was hooked into drugs. And I don't know, just that first line, your daddy works in porno. I always thought that was like an eye opener. Like your ear was like, wait, what did I just hear? What was that? No, what? So it's kind of interesting, but that's my number 3. My top track from Appetite. It is My Michelle.
Nice.
All right. Wow, we're getting there, guys.
I also dated a Michelle for 2 years. Maybe that's part of it. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. My number 2 song is one that both of you guys had further down on your lists. And it is another song that features whistling. It is Patience. It's just a great ballad. I mean, it's all acoustic, which you don't get often from Guns N' Roses. As you guys talked, I think one of the most notable things would be the vocals. I mean, usually even on the kind of softer, slower songs, Axl's vocals are still kind of like screechy. It's like still like screaming, but he's restraining it. And on Patience, it's like the only example I can really think of where you actually get him like singing, I mean, Cody, I think you said that it's more like he's almost kind of like speaking the words, but it is like the vocals themselves are like super toned down and mild. Like there's really not any of that kind of like screaminess until the end. You get a little bit of that when it kind of picks up, but it's just a great song. I mean, I just, again, I'm a sad boy, I'm a sucker for a good love song. And it's definitely one that I have played on acoustic guitar to myself and to a lady or two.
Nice. Number 2. I suspect this is gonna be on your guys' list here too. It's gonna come real quick. Number 2 for me is November Rain.
Never heard of it.
What?
So, as I going back to the Metallica topic again, I mentioned that the combination of a rock song with a symphony behind it, just really, it just really, I feel that it just really works well for me. So, you've got that, and it's just a beautiful melody throughout, and the guitar solo and the bridge is phenomenal. And so, fun fact, I was not exactly I wasn't out there like getting a lot of dates in high school. Let's just put it that way. And so I didn't have a lot of dances in high school, but I got my money's worth with this one. At 9 minutes and 16 seconds, I picked a good one. So, and then further fun fact, kind of somewhat related, the photographer at my wedding actually called me out for putting this on the playlist because technically it's not really a love song. It's actually more talking about more like divorce and like being away from the person you love, but still a great song to dance to. And yeah,
hey, there's like 2. A wedding in the video.
Yeah, that's true.
At first,
right before the death,
kind of, sort of.
Yeah, good one. Okay, my number 2 has been mentioned already here. Now I don't know if we have anything left that hasn't been mentioned, but picture this. You got a song. It starts with a quote and then whistling. But wait, not just whistling and a guitar duet.
What we've got here is a failure to communicate.
No, I don't think we do. You're understanding me exactly. It's the Civil War. Civil War. I like this one a lot too. Lyrics. I was just reading through lyrics again here as you guys are talking about kind of how simple they are. And you're not wrong on this. They are pretty simple, but I like this one as well, just for the message that it still has behind it. I think still poignant with all of the crap that goes on in our world today, and just that what's so civil about war anyway. I was like that line at the end of all this. This one I was reading earlier too. Apparently, when they were on tour, the intro to this song, not the quote, but when they actually start playing it, was what they would do to warm up before they'd go out on stage. Wasn't actually a song, and then they developed like that into a full song that somehow became Civil War of all things, but that was apparently their warm-up that they would do every day before the concert. So Civil War.
Nice. Oh man,
can you do this, Joe?
Oh man, I don't know if I can do this.
Hair of the Dog cover.
It is the cover of Hair of the Dog is my number 1 favorite Guns N' Roses song. Son of a bitch. No,
You're lying, because that would mean you've actually listened to the Spaghetti Incident, and I don't believe that.
I mean, I used to own it. I said it was like the first Guns N' Roses album I
You
own.
can own something and
I
not
just
listen
haven't
to
listened
it.
to it since it was initially released.
Hey, before you say your number one, I have a question for you.
Yo,
Do you like the song "Moves Like Jagger" by Maroon 5?
it's catchy. Why do you ask?
Damn it. I made a note for a future podcast. Joe likes all songs with whistling. This is going to be a challenge now.
I mean, I do like that. It's a super catchy pop song. What's not to like?
Well, mostly the song, but go on.
Anyway, my number one Guns N' Roses song. I had a feeling that this was going to be the Enter Sandman of this podcast. So I'm curious to see what your number one is, Cody. My number one was Brett's number two, November Rain. As soon as this topic was proposed for the podcast, there was like no doubt in my mind that this was the number one. And I've listened to it many times over the past week, and it's just kind of further sealed the deal on that. I was actually listening to it while I was driving home from a hike earlier today, and I got weirdly emotional because it's just such a fucking amazing song. Like I literally, I honestly feel like this is one of the greatest songs ever recorded. It's just, it has everything. I mean, it's got, the piano intro, and it just builds and builds and builds. And it has like some of the most iconic guitar work of any song ever. I mean, it's, Slash just like owning it. And I feel like probably about a third of this song is Slash soloing, but it all feels necessary. Like going back to that, thing I was paraphrasing him on earlier, like every second of the guitar playing feels just essential to this song, and it's, kind of built around it. It's similarly to what I, said about Enter Sandman, and the Black Album in general, when we were talking about Metallica, as far as just kind of the maturity of songwriting. I feel like just the structure of this song, and the orchestra, like Brett talked about, it just feels like on a whole nother level compared to like everything else Guns N' Roses has done. And I mean, they have a lot of phenomenal songs, but I just feel like this one is kind of like in a whole nother stratosphere. So yeah, November Rain is my number one.
I thought I had was and appropriate since that's the green screen background you have at the moment. But that moment in the video when he walks out of the church, and you're like, oh man, he's gonna just shred something here. And it's much more subdued than you would expect, but it's just as amazing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's what you focused on, not the fact that how big the church was inside versus outside. Come on.
I mean, speaking of that video, like the video itself is like, going back to me talking about MTV and stuff in the intro, like that's, iconic. Like that's like, I just think about Slash standing outside the church with the cigarette hanging out of his face, just wailing on his Les Paul, wearing a leather jacket and no shirt underneath. Like, it's just amazing. Like
I feel like that video too was very much
roll.
Yeah, and it was like an evolution of music videos too.
Yeah,
because whereas before you'd have like some stupid concept or bands rocking on stage or whatever, and this was like full-fledged like Hollywood.
Yeah, and even like a lot of the Guns N' Roses videos were just like them performing the song.
Yeah,
it's either like them in a studio or them on stage like playing a song, and like, but yeah, this is like a whole giant production that's kind of trying to tell a story. And also Slash goes outside and wails on his Les Paul and looks awesome doing it.
Indeed. True. All right. Well, number one for me is what to me feels like the iconic sound of Guns N' Roses. Like we were saying, this is what Guns N' Roses sounds like. This is that song. And I feel that being that it's, it coming off of their first album and being, like I said before, was kind of a transition between, the hair metal sound and it kind of into some grunge kind of tunes. And it's just a great song. Love the vocals on it. Super catchy. The guitar is amazing. That is Welcome to the Jungle. That is my number one. That is that is when I think of Guns N' Roses sound, that's the song that I would come to. And yeah, let's say being the first track on the first album, it came out swinging. So
Good stuff. Well, that wraps it up, everybody.
Record scratch.
All right. My number
Cody's
one.
number one is the entire album of Chinese Democracy.
That's right.
He couldn't make up his mind.
I have a version that just plays nonstop the whole way through. It's one track. My number one is Dead Horse off Use Your Illusion 1. That's a lie. You know it's going to be November Rain. It's November Rain. Yeah, I mean, this is... I didn't really honestly think about it when we suggested this as an idea for this podcast, but this is what I always say is my number one song, has been since I was a kid. And I was like, maybe I'll put something else at the top. No, that was probably never going to happen. But I will say, as much as I love the 9-minute version, I prefer the 12-minute version off the live version in Japan. It's just awesome to hear like the 3-minute piano intro of Axl like not quite doing the song as it's normally done, and people being like, what is he going to do? And then he gets into the opening parts and the audience explodes, and then you're like, oh, they're amazingly yelling, and this is like the quiet part of the song. Like they're not even ramped this bitch up yet. Like it's going to get crazy. So I love it. Joe made a comment very similar here, but I actually wrote, damn near the perfect song if such a thing exists. Slow build up to that outro with Joe's shot there of Slash, great music video, etc. Just a solid all around song. You know, I love it's kind of taken on like a larger than life, I think, like pop culture iconic life of its own too, with the like I was thinking of John Mulaney's Salt and Pepper Diner skit earlier when he's like, you know, the part in Guns N' Roses November Rain when you think it's over. No, it's not. It's like that's exactly part of the greatness about this song. Then you get to the part that's just as good, if not better, late into this. Yeah, that's my number one, November Rain. Shocking everybody, I know. There we go. Okay, while Brett's tabulating here, I was going to ask also, do you guys have a favorite album or two? If we didn't really rank those this time, but I'll say for me, I'll go first on this one. My favorite is the live era 87 to 93 double album, because I was kind of going through and switching all these, what album they were off of, but I prefer the live version. I think every single song that is on those albums as a live version. And then number two, I don't really know for me, probably would be, I guess consistency would probably be Appetite, followed by Use Your Illusion 2. Sounds sacrilegious because November Rain's on Use Your Illusion 1, but it's the same problem we had with Load and Reload. I'm like, this is the better song, but the other album just cohesively fits together a little bit better.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to be a basic Guns N' Roses bitch and put Appetite at number one. I mean, like you said, just for consistency. I mean, it's a tighter album, and you know, it in a lot of ways it doesn't feel as ambitious as the Use Your Illusion albums, but I feel like, you know, pound for pound, it's more successful at what it's trying to do. And I might actually have to agree with you with putting Use Your Illusion 2 ahead of 1. I mean, they're both great, but again, I think, you know, as an album, I think it maybe works together a little more cohesively than 1 does.
For me, it's definitely Appetite. I probably wouldn't put any of them even close to that. Like you say, it kind of sounds like just like basic, but that's what it is. You know, it's the best overall. It's got the most hit songs, and it just sounds great all the way through. So to put anything else above that would really take something special. So
yeah, I mean, it is basic, but like if you listen to it, it's like 50 minutes and then you feel like you need a shower afterwards. You're like, okay. There's that. So Have you all listened to the live era double album?
I have not. Apparently, I need to.
Oh my gosh, I have that one on CD in the basement someplace. Yeah, check it out. It's Live Era 87 to 93, or as we call it, the only years Guns N' Roses performed. But yeah, check it out. It's just a collection of like them in like various cities that they took a track from. Here I'm just looking: Vegas, London, Paris, Argentina, New York, Tokyo, Mexico, Houston. Like they just took probably the best version of the song, I'm sure, from the tour they did and put them all together. But yeah, it's fantastic. The audience, I'm a sucker for live stuff. I'll almost always pick the live album of anything. But yeah, it's fantastic. Check it out. Last question I had. I'm going to throw this at you unadvertised and put you on the spot. Ready for this?
No.
Originally, before we ever had a Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing, we were brainstorming podcast topic ideas. And one of the proposed topics, which we probably obviously are not going to do now, is Metallica versus Guns N' Roses. So I put you on the spot now and say Metallica or Guns N' Roses.
Fuck you. That's the answer.
I have a guess where everyone will fall, but let's see if I'm right here. I'll even go first if it helps. I would have guessed this was actually very, very hard between the two. Metallica has more albums that have things probably I enjoy off of them, although it'd probably be close because I don't like their early stuff as much. But I could tell by doing the research for this week's podcast, there were far more Guns N' Roses songs I was considering for my top 10 than there were Metallica songs, although we had a couple blocked, I guess, last week too. But probably I'm going to pick Guns N' Roses as my slight winner here on this one. I'm going to say 60-40 Guns N' Roses. 55-45 Guns N' Roses. Give me five. Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Brett.
Well, I guess I'll follow that. Sure. I don't think I would. Yeah, it's not terribly close for me. I think I'd put Metallica ahead. It's just more of the sound that I kind of vibe with, I think. Though what I would say about Guns N' Roses is that many more of their songs have the word is a grace to them. They're a bit more graceful, which I really appreciate. But I would definitely have more if you're talking about like just singles, which isn't necessarily fair because the number of work, the amount of work to choose from is completely different. But
yeah,
Metallica certainly has more singles that I would put on a list. For me, it was kind of opposite of what you were saying, Cody. I had many Metallica songs that I was trying to stuff into a list, and for this, my list was much shorter. I didn't have to like fool around with trying to stuff things in my list for this one.
Yeah, you got me thinking now. If we didn't have because last week we had the 2 songs per album rule.
Yeah,
where I would have added in like Unforgiven, Sad But True, maybe even Unforgiven 2. I mean, yeah, there would have been more, I guess. Now I'm thinking about this. I'll stay with the 55-45, but it's close.
I think they both suck. Good night, everybody.
Everybody likes Maroon 5.
No, this is really tough, honestly, because I kind of agree with Brett where if we didn't have that rule on the Metallica episode last week where you could only do 2 per album, like I could have had pretty much like the entirety of Ride the Lightning, at least almost the entirety of the Black Album, like, and multiple other songs from other albums. Like my list would have been like way longer for Metallica. Whereas coming into this Guns N' Roses one, I pretty much knew I had maybe like 13 songs total that were vying for my top 10. You know, with Metallica, I probably would have had at least 20, like maybe even more than that. But that being said, I feel like I have to be in a certain mood to want to get down with Metallica.
Exactly my thought I came to here.
Whereas I feel like I would always listen to Guns N' Roses, you know, like if one of these songs comes on, like I'm going to listen to it. Like, so because of that factor, I think I would have to just very narrowly give the edge to Guns N' Roses, like 51-49. Like it's very close, but I feel like GNR would have to just like narrowly edge it out because of, like I'm not always going to want to listen to Metallica, but I feel like I would always listen to like any of the Guns N' Roses songs in my top 10.
We're so close. Brett's Metallica skews it to a victory for Metallica. Dun, da, 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 da. Brett, do you have any aggregate results for us?
I do. So it's an interesting fact, and kind of actually fits in with what we were just talking about. There were only 15 songs that we voted on, that we gave votes to for the top 10. So it wasn't like spread out terribly much. But coming in at the number 5 spot with 15 points is Don't Cry. At number 4 with 16 points, Patience. 18 points is Civil War. And number 2 with 23 points, Welcome to the Jungle. And then the nearly perfect score, wowing the judges, November Rain, number 1, 29 points.
Just got a 9 from the Russians. Dang it all. Ay. Sweet. That was awesome. That was fun to do kind of back to back too, the 2 weeks, honestly, because the format just made it like this week. I was like, here's what we're going to do. This is the format. This is easy.
True. Yeah, that worked out.
Now, this is a fun format. Like we could do some in the future. I mean, the bands have to have a big enough discography for us to consider them to do this, but there's definitely a lot of bands we could do this with. So, and I like this format too, because like us three have been on here the last 2 times now, but like there's no reason somebody couldn't join in, even if they have not listened to a single song before, as long as they're willing to listen to them,
Yeah,
it's true.
So maybe we'll get some of those coming up as well here. Anybody have any closing thoughts today? That was a fun one.
That was fun. I mean, I think the aggregate kind of plays out the fact that whistling is awesome in songs. So
we'll see. We will see. It's our new challenge.
Maybe that's an episode. Top 10 songs that feature whistling.
Ooh.
I'll tell you what my number 1 is right now.
What is it?
I'll save for the podcast.
Oh, tease. Look at that tease right there.
No, it's a Japanese song that was released in the US as Sukiyaki by Kyu Sakamoto. I forget the actual Japanese title of it, but it's the best whistling song of all time.
Is it the whistling song from Kill Bill?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's better. I mean, we can debate this when we do a podcast about it.
Maybe. Okay, let's see. I don't really have much else today. This is scheduled to be our 21st episode, dear audience, if this plays out the way it's supposed to, I believe. And somewhere around episode 25, little teaser for everybody. I pre-warned everybody that somewhere in here we're going to have a rank the MCU all entirety together in one episode, or maybe 2. So that's somewhere on the horizon.
5 hours of podcasting.
Now we'll have to make some strict rules with that one, but somewhere out there. And I think we might have maybe some TV show reviews coming up soon as well. So all right, well, I guess that's it. I can only think that we're gonna sing this somehow in Axel's voice today on the way out, or if somebody wants to try to do a riff from Slash, you could do that as well, I guess, or you just pretend to be Izzy Stradlin and just not be here anymore. Oh, too cold. All right, anyway. All right, everyone, until then, we have been not disagreeing.
Friends occasionally not disagreeing.
Hi, yeah.
Woo! Axl Rose doing an impression of James Hetfield.
Woo, yeah.
I thought it was Michael Jackson.
Woo-hoo! All right, let's leave. Let's get out of here before we start to... We'll see you, everybody. Take care.
Good night, everyone.